Thousands of you enjoyed the NHL opening week $9 special, so it's only fair that we offer the NBA fans the same deal. Every NBA daily package for the opening week through Monday, October 25th is just $9. That's right, you will not be paying $25 for a package, nor will you be paying $35 for 5% best bets for the opening week of the NBA, as all daily basketball packages are only $9. Make sure to tune in every Monday through Friday for the NBA tip-off show on WagerTalk TV, and then save and start the NBA season with a slam dunk deal.
Thursday, October 21st. I'm not the Prez. I am Steve Merrill, guest hosting for the Prez. He'll be back tomorrow on Friday, but I am joined, as always, here on WagerTalk Today, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, by Rocksteady. Teddy covers WagerTalk.com. And as always, Teddy, we've got a loaded show for Thursday as we're heading closer to football Saturday and Sunday. MLB playoffs still continue. NBA enters its third night of the regular season. NHL, its second week. We've got Dave Cokin on in just a moment. He's a hockey expert along with baseball, college football, NFL as well. Going to talk some games with Dave Cokin here on the show, and I'm going to look at that Game 5. I'm excited to talk to Dave about Dodgers Braves because when we last spoke, he and I did the baseball show on Wednesday before Game 3. We both said Dodgers, a little pricey. Hey, it was never in doubt. Now we'll see if they can get it done in Game 5. Of course, San Jose State plays UNLV in a game that was rescheduled for tonight. We're going to talk about that one. Also a Friday game, Memphis UCF. You've got a big game breakdown on another game tonight in college football between Louisiana Lafayette and Arkansas State. So we got a lot of Thursday and Friday college football, but don't forget about the NFL this weekend. We've got the human walking database, Ralph Michaels, here with tons of charts and angles and trends and systems for football, mostly the NFL, a little bit of college football. He's going to look at Wyoming, New Mexico. Anyway, Teddy, before we get to all of that, what did you learn last night? I mean, I quickly learned that momentum in baseball is a real thing in the American League, but I guess not the National League. Braves and Astros are sitting pretty right now. What did you learn?
Sure. And, of course, I've been sitting here. We have the $9 NBA special. I saw the promo before we went on. I'm like, oh, crap, I didn't put the $9 special up there. So I've been rapidly over here trying to change the price down to $9. I do have NBA available for this evening as well as NFL. But last night, look, I want to talk marketing versus reality. All right. This is something we don't do a lot on the show. And I had a 5% big ticket play last night on the opening full night of the NBA season on the Chicago Bulls. And I put out the Bulls when they were, -3.5, and the line got bet all the way up to -5. And it was a nail biter of a game. It certainly wasn't a right side. In the write-up, I'm like, there's a good chance Chicago controls this. If not, the Bulls are the better closers, and they should control the final minute. So we got, we can win wire to wire. If we need to, we can win in the final minute. But the headline is, 5% NBA blowout, big ticket. Whenever you have your favorite using blowout, whenever you have a dog using shocker, these are the words that you use when you're marketing. And of course, it wasn't a blowout. So I got a tweet or two. Some blowout, you jerk. I'm like, dude, the play won. All right. That's all I can do is try to put out winners and try to get lines and find legitimate value. And again, when the line moves a point and a half, 2 points against me, that means I saw something, and I don't before the markets did, and I view that as a good thing. But I'll take any win in any sport any way I can get it, blow it or not. And the marketing is what it is. We cash your tickets now 15-5, 75% with the big ticket reports across all sports dating back to May. So I learned there's a little bit of a difference between marketing and reality sometimes. Steve, what about you? What'd you learn last night?
Yeah, you know me, I don't like to market at all. If I like to market, I'd mention that I've got a promo code WEEK59 in which you get the next 7 days and nights, all sports for $59 at WagerTalk.com. But I won't mention that, Teddy covers, because I want to talk about non-marketing things. Hey, look, you and I both do this for a living. Dave Cokin does this for a living. Everyone gets the exact same games all three of us are using on a nightly basis. It's that simple. If we have a bet, if we have a play we like, our clients get it. And people are like, well, why do you sell your plays? Because we're already doing the work. And I've met a lot of people over 25 years, and they become long-term clients. I like to help people win. Doesn't mean we're going to win every game. If you hit 55, 56%, you're going to make a small fortune. Hit 60%, you're going to win some contests in Vegas if you hit in the 60% range. So that means you're going to lose 40, 45% of the time. And people have to learn to take that approach. But I love the fact that you win a 5% play and someone still finds a way to complain. That might be a first, Teddy. Even I have not experienced that.
Well, it's worth noting. So there was the Bulls are up 8, and then the Pistons hit a shot, and then the Bulls turn it over, and Detroit gets a last look at the buzzer, and they make a shot, but it comes after the buzzer, and their first final score to come in was a 4-point win, and then it got changed to a 6-point win. The first time you tweet was a 4-point score, so it was a sweat and a half. It was a sweat the whole way. But that being said, I ain't giving the money back. I'll take a win any way I can get it.
And by the way, Teddy, I was on the Bulls last night as well. Also had the T-Wolves, which was an easier blowout win. That was a little bit of a blowout. And had the Warriors the first night, an outright underdog. So the only one I had to sweat was that Bulls game. But I'm off to a nice 3-0 start. I know you crushed it last night in the NBA. Look, early season NBA, these lines are soft. And I know you guys talked to Art about that yesterday. Do the books overlook games? He doesn't feel that way. But these lines are definitely softer than they're going to be in January or February. And I think as handicappers, we can pick our spots.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that in my big game breakdown. I actually switched. I was going to talk UCLA, Oregon for the big game breakdown. It's a big national TV game on Saturday. I'm like, I want to switch and talk a TV game for tonight to specifically illustrate that point. Talking about how maybe there's some nuance that gets missed at this time of year with point spreads, even though the numbers themselves are going to be quote unquote accurate. As Art DeCesar was saying yesterday, it's not like the books don't have specialists for all the different sports that are going right now. But when there's a little bit of nuance missing in these point spreads, then it does offer bettors an opportunity. So we'll talk about that when it comes to big game breakdown a little bit later in the show. But enough of that. Let's bring in Dave. What do you say?
Yeah, we're going to bring in Dave Cokin. And Dave, I've always felt that the biggest edge you find as a handicapper is, especially later in the season, as Teddy said, these numbers are all based on stats, score and margin, strength of schedule. So, the numbers are pretty much where they should be on most games. I think where you find an edge in any sport is where you think there's situationally something that has changed, maybe short term or in that game, which makes the numbers a little off. And do you feel, Dave Cokin, do you feel like early in the season you find value with the NHL? I know you cover that. We do the NBA. Do you find like the lines are softer the first couple months in hockey, for example?
They're not soft right now because nobody can figure out what the hell is going on in the NHL. The league's completely topsy-turvy right now. I've only made 3 bets since the NHL started. I'm 1-2, and I'm playing extremely low volume for a reason. It's pretty much unpredictable out there right now. The team with the best record in the league is the Buffalo Sabres, who are widely considered to be the worst team in the league. They're 3-0. So it's been weird out there. And I think part of that has to do with the fact that we're coming out of a bizarre season where everybody played every game in their division. They only played, 56 games, I think. And it's just a whole different scenario here. The team that was in the Stanley Cup Finals last year, Montreal, they're 0-4. And they look like they could be 0-8, even though they've only played 4 games. So, no, is the answer to that. The lines are not soft in the NHL. And I don't know too many people who are winning right now.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what, though, Dave, you bring up a good point. Something else I always say is that the one edge you have as a handicapper versus the bookmakers is the odds makers have to put a number on every game. You do not have to play every game, and you find your spots. And you just said, hey, look, I've only played 3 games in a week. I'm not feeling it. We're taking it easy. And that's exactly what you do. You don't force it when it's cold or when it's complicated. You look at other sports. I know you've got college football still. You've got baseball still. And I think that's a real edge that people underestimate. You don't have to play 3 or 4 games every night. You can pick your spots. That's the one biggest edge you have as a handicapper is you can find those 2 or 3 college football games out of 50 in which you think there's value every week. Hey, before we get to college football, Dave, I want to talk baseball with you. You and I did the baseball show Tuesday afternoon. We talked about how it was almost a must-win for the Dodgers. We also liked the over in the Astro-Red Sox game on that show, and I was laughing Tuesday night, Dave, because I was thinking we went 2-0, never in doubt.
Never in doubt.
But hey, look, impressive bounce back by the Braves. It was a bullpen game for them yesterday. They were $2 underdogs, and they came out of the gate hot. There was no hangover after that blown lead in Game 2. As I also said on Tuesday's show, Teddy, I told Dave, like Yogi Berra said, it's deja vu all over again. Last year, the Braves win games 1 and 2. Dodgers blow them out in Game 3. Now, this year wasn't a blowout. The Braves did come back, keep in mind, and blow them out in Game 4, 10-2 last year. So the Braves did blow a 3-1 lead last year. Does it possibly happen again? And more importantly, Dave, how are you handicapping Game 5? When I looked last night, it looked like it was going to be a bullpen game for the Dodgers. Max Fried expected to go for the Braves. So, obviously they get through this game. They're going to have, I believe, Scherzer and Buehler for 6 and 7. But do they get through this game tonight, Dave?
Well, I think the Braves are going to look at this and say we're in great shape. We've dominated the series. They have. I mean, the series could be over already were it not for a rally in Game 3 by the Dodgers. They were down 5-2 in that game. Braves are getting better pitching. They're getting more timely hitting. And they've got Max Fried on the mound tonight, who's their best pitcher. And he's got the best ERA in baseball since the All-Star break. Dodgers will go with bullpen. To me, there's not a lot to analyze here. I can get Fried as an underdog in the first 5 innings at about plus 115. Give me. I'm tight. I took it. 3% play on the Braves. First 5. Listed Fried. I can't list the Dodgers pitcher because we don't know who it's going to be. If you're at a book where you have to either list both pitchers or go action, then go action because the Braves are going to pitch Fried unless something happens to him between now and game time. He's on the mound. So just play it action. And then you don't care who's going for the Dodgers. But the Braves are also, I'm sure, blessed with memories of last year. They want to put this thing away right here and not have to worry about facing Buehler and Scherzer in Game 6 and Game 7. And I think they've got an excellent chance to do so. But I'm only playing first 5. I think the Dodgers do have a late inning advantage. Their key arms are fresh in the bullpen. The Braves used their guys last night. I'm really not sure why they used Will Smith with a huge lead in the 9th inning, but I'm not the manager. But in any event, I'll take Fried first 5 at plus money. To me, that's a bargain.
So I've got a couple of questions here, Dave. First, I want to ask you about the Dodger bats. This is as potent a lineup as you'll find in MLB, and yet against the Atlanta starters and the bullpen for most of this series, the Dodgers really haven't. The bats haven't been great. The clutch hitting hasn't been great, and obviously the run production way down. What do you make of the Dodgers offensively right now? And we need to even worry about this tomorrow.
I don't make much out of it. I mean, teams go through slumps. They go through hot streaks. They go through slumps. We're seeing a Boston team that was just killing the baseball throughout in the Yankees game, throughout the Tampa series, in the early portion of this series. And they get 2 runs in the first inning on Tuesday, and they basically haven't been heard from since. So they've gone into a bit of a slump. That's the way it goes. And the Dodgers need one big inning to turn things around. You put a crooked number up, and everybody starts feeling good about themselves, and they can turn it around. But right now, the Braves are out hitting them. Braves are out doing it. They're out everything the Dodgers in this series. They have been the better baseball team.
So the second follow-up question there has to do with this line, because here is a Braves team that, as you mentioned, it's not like they're upstarts. They were 1 game from the World Series last year, or 1 game from beating the Dodgers last year. It's not like they have a scrub on the hill. They have their ace on the hill. It's not like they don't have the momentum. They have all the momentum, and yet they're dogs to the Dodgers in a bullpen game, and not just minus plus 105 dogs. They're significant dogs in this ballgame. Does this line surprise you where it is?
No, not at all. Doesn't surprise me at all, because the Dodgers have been huge favorites in games where they have had. Well, we've known who the starting pitcher is. I mean, they were over $2 yesterday. Well, the Dodgers are still perceived as the better team, and they probably are. The Dodgers are the best team in baseball. Doesn't mean they're going to win this thing. The best team doesn't always win, and that seems to be the case right now with the Dodgers. I mean, if this was a 162 game series, I can tell you the Dodgers would beat the Braves, but it's not. It's a best of 7, and the Braves are 1 win away from getting it done. But it's still going to be priced away. You can't make it. I mean, if you make it Dodgers 120. They're going to get completely overloaded with LA action. They'd have a huge liability in the game. Probably going to have one anyway because it's an elimination game for the Dodgers, and I think their fan base, as far as the betting market's concerned, is going to bet them tonight. But I don't. Obviously, I'm not a fan. I don't care about any of that stuff. I'm a Red Sox fan, but I bet the Astros last night, and didn't have too much trouble collecting that one. So it's short-term stuff. Betting is short-term. I mean, over the course of a season, it's long-term, and you've got to follow your rules, so to speak. But on a night-to-night basis, it's short-term.
And by the way, Teddy talking about the Dodgers being ice-cold offensively, they've had 4 hits in 2 of their last 3 games in the series, including yesterday. So they have definitely cooled off offensively. And by the way, look-ahead lines right now are the advanced series, adjusted series prices in both. We're seeing, for the most part, Houston and Atlanta each about a 1-5 favorite now, minus 500, about plus 380 on the dogs. That means mathematically there's a 19% chance that either the Red Sox or the Dodgers come back to win the series. So 19% chance the Dodgers win 3 straight is what the betting markets are saying. Once again, $1.40 favorite here in Game 5 with a bullpen game against Fried, who Dave said has the best ERA since the All-Star break. So tough spot for the Dodgers, to say the least. We'll see. That game goes at 8 o'clock Eastern tonight on Thursday. Let's switch over to some college football, Dave. After that baseball game, people can flip over and watch this game that was moved to Thursday night because they wanted a late-night TV game at 11 o'clock Eastern, I guess. And that's the 0-6 Running Rebels. You're in Teddy's 0-6 Running Rebels against San Jose State, who's a mere 3-4. And I say that because they were 7-1 last year, had a breakout season, struggled out of the gate this year. Obviously, a little bit of a regression was expected, but after covering their first game against Southern Utah, a non-1A team, they went 0-5 against the spread against every Division 1A team they played this year until the last game last week, in which they covered but lost at San Diego State at home against San Diego State. Hard for me to ever trust UNLV, Dave. Is this a spot where we're getting some line value now with the Spartans based on their struggles this year? Could they step it up and blow out a pretty bad team in UNLV tonight?
I wouldn't call it line value, but I think the spot favors San Jose State. You wonder about UNLV's mindset at this point because they still haven't won a game under Arroyo. I think it's 0-12 now. But they've come so close the last 3 weeks. I mean, they're right there. They could actually be 3-3 right now. Actually, they could have a winning record because the Eastern Washington game that they opened the season with, they lost in double overtime. They just don't know how to close the show. And that could be what gets them in trouble again tonight. They just don't know how to finish. At some point, the team is going to get discouraged from these close losses, and that's when somebody's going to come in and thump them. I think the line's right in the game. In fact, you could argue it's a little bit high based on the way UNLV's played so far. But I did take San Jose State in the game. It's down to 4 now, and the reason I took them is, number one, both teams are kind of desperate for a win, but San Jose State at least knows how to win football games. This is a game they've got to have. A loss here, and they're probably not going to get back to a bowl. A win here, and they're 4-4 and can close out the season and get to play in the postseason, which is a big deal for them. The Rebels, we don't know what's going to happen at quarterback. It's just a guess because nobody's saying for sure. I think Friel might be okay to play. It sounds like Broomfield is still a little too beat up. Friel came out of last week's game with a knee injury, and I don't think he's practiced much. If he can't go, then it's Rogers. Martell is available. That's not a good quarterback situation. In particular, since the practice routine has been completely disturbed. So, short week for both teams, I think actually favors San Jose State. It's more of a situational play than anything else. I don't think it's a value play, but I'd go with the more trustworthy team here, which is San Jose State.
So, I mean, the Rebels have one legitimate offensive weapon in terms of running back Charles.
Oh, he's great.
Who's who's a monster on the ground. And at times this year, San Jose was much better than expected defensively last year. At times this year, we've seen that defense show some cracks. Certainly the Colorado State game stands out to me as one where they just got pushed around at the line of scrimmage. Do you worry about that and UNLV being able to control this game on the ground at all against the Spartans? And of course, it does not look like Starkel's going to play tonight, although in terms of Starkel versus Nash, I don't know, there's a huge drop-off at QB for the Spartans. But talk about that real quick and talk about the Rebels' ability to run the football and San Jose's ability to stop it.
Okay, I don't have any problem with Nash. He's not very good throwing the ball, but he's more of a run-pass threat than Starkel, who can't move. And Starkel wasn't playing that great anyway. So the quarterback position is fair at best for San Jose State. They're going to have to win with their running game and defense, which needs to play well. And as for Williams, he's generally the best player in the field in almost any game UNLV plays. Now, the Rebels don't have a lot, but he is one great running back. He's going to find a way to play in the NFL. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's going to play in the NFL. So you always worry about that. You got to contain him. If he goes off for 200 yards, Rebels won't have to do much through the air to win the football game. But the problem is they just have not been able to do what they need to do, even with Williams on the field and playing great football. And if they're able to contain him, then UNLV has very little path toward getting the ball in the end zone. They only cash in on mistakes by the opposition, as they did in the Texas San Antonio game. They got a couple of touchdowns with like, how did that happen? UTSA blew coverage and they had guys wide open. The biggest problem for me is that when the opponent is taking the game seriously, UNLV has real trouble. And I think San Jose State coming in here on a little bit of a losing streak is going to take the game seriously.
And that game, once again, has been moved. That's UNLV San Jose State. It's been moved to Thursday night, 11 p.m. Eastern tonight. It's on CBS Sports Network. You can watch that after the baseball game, which is at 8 o'clock Eastern, of course. And, Dave, we're going to look at one more national TV game for Friday night here. This is a much better matchup. Memphis at Central Florida Friday night. This is actually the ESPN2 game, I believe, tomorrow night on Friday. Central Florida's quarterback out, obviously, with injury. And this is a situation where you've got two teams that, at least on the surface, have been explosive offensively this year. Central Florida has regressed a bit the last 2 weeks against East Carolina. Obviously, a tough Cincinnati team last week. They put up just 20 and 21. How are you approaching this one? Can Central Florida bounce back? Memphis got a win against Navy after 3 straight losses. How are you approaching this one? Memphis, Central Florida tomorrow night on Friday.
UCF season went south when Dylan Gabriel got hurt. They have not responded well. And a team that has been used to playing important games at this time of year is suddenly not playing important games. So I don't think the mindset's very good for Central Florida. The market certainly feels that way. This was a game that I looked on as being a likely play, but I didn't get out there early. I think it was +3 on the open, and that's long gone. Memphis is now the favorite in the game, so I can't play it because the value is completely sucked out of the line now. And Memphis isn't exactly reliable. They turn the ball over on a constant basis. That's been a big issue for them this season. Certainly the game 2 weeks back, I'm blanking on who they played, but it was a game they really should have won. Tulsa, yeah, they should have won the game, but they gave it away with turnovers and some questionable defensive strategy at the end of the first half, and it was a loss that they shouldn't have had. I'm a little dubious about the coaching on that team right now, to be honest with you, but Memphis is the better football team at this point. They win the stats, both overall and when you factor in strength of schedule and when you factor in conference play. They've at least got some positive momentum coming out of last week's game, and Memphis should win this. The problem with betting it, and I know I say this constantly, but it is the case, you waited too long, and that's certainly the case for me. I was hoping, I knew there was going to be a little Central Florida action or Memphis action early because I thought the +3 was kind of a bad number. But I was thinking, well, if it gets down to pick 'em, Central Florida money might come back in and I can get plus something with Memphis and I'll bet it. But that's gone. It's -1.5. So it's on my lean list. I publish a list of leans every week. They're available at WagerTalk News. If you follow me on Twitter at Dave Cokin, there's a link to it there. You'll get, I think there's 8 college football leans. These are games that didn't make the card this week. I've also got 8 college football plays this week, or 8 games I'm involved in. I've actually got more plays than that because I made some 1% money line plays on some of the dogs that I took. So this is my deepest card of the season, coming out of a good week in college. My NFL was horrible last week, absolutely terrible. Worst week I've had in the NFL in a long time. We'll look to bounce back there, but probably going to be a thin card for me in the NFL. But pretty enthused about the college football card this week. And Memphis was a game I leaned to, but it won't ultimately make the card.
Just real quick on this one, Dave, I want to ask you, in general, when I'm laying points on the road, I want to be real confident that my defense can get stops. UCF has had defensive issues all year. Okay, I know that team's not a team that I would trust to get stops against Memphis late. But can we trust the Tigers' defense to get stops? Because they've made some pretty ugly defensive showings this year.
Well, I mean, if Dylan Gabriel was on the field,
to a lead if they have the opportunity.
If Gabriel was on the field, well, you'd have a different line and a different situation. They're clearly not the same team without him at quarterback. Their offense hasn't been that good. I mean, Central Florida is about a touchdown downgrade from Gabriel to the backup. Not that Gabriel's the best quarterback in the country, but it's clear that UCF doesn't have much behind him. And their power rating has gone down about 7 points in the interim. So, I mean, Memphis, it's a game Memphis should win. The only reason I'm not betting it is this: it's just a bad idea to intentionally take the worst of it from a line standpoint. I say this all the time. It's repetitive. A lot of people don't listen to it. Oh, you gotta play the sharp side. Yeah, it's not the sharp side once the good numbers go on. Okay, that is just this is something I preach ad nauseum. Okay, and I know those of you who've listened to me are probably sick of me saying this, but these people who recommend follow the sharps, they don't know what they're doing. These are the worst people to possibly follow. They simply do not know what they're doing because they're actually not in essence. They're directly telling you to take the worst of a number. Because if you're following the sharp side, they got the sharp number. They got the good number. You didn't. It's a terrible idea. Those are the games you leave alone. It's a values. Betting is about, it's not about getting just value. It's about getting the right side. But you got to combine the two. And if you intentionally sacrifice value, you are going to lose in the long run 100%.
And once again, we call them steam chasers, chasing the steam. And back in the day, you used to see the board light up and move 2 or 3 points. And you'd be, hey, that's the sharp side. Like Dave said, it was the sharp side. And once it moves 2 or 3 points, it's no longer the sharp side. It becomes a lot of times a 50-50 play at that point. Once again, UCF opened as a 3-point favorite. They're now a 1.5-point home dog for Friday night football tomorrow evening. Dave, on the way out, what do you got going at WagerTalk.com? I know you've crushed it for decades in college football. What do you have on tap for this weekend in college football? Anything else you want to promote?
Involved in 8 games in college football, which is a lot. That's my biggest card of the season. No 5% plays, but I do like the card quite a bit. And I did have a good week last week in college football. NFL, probably going to be a 2-game card for me. There's a free play up now, which is on an ugly team that you might not want to bet, but that's up to you. The other game is a best bet. I might not go any deeper than that in the NFL. NHL, I don't have anything for tonight. I am going to have a game tomorrow. I absolutely know that, and I'm going to put the game out shortly. It'll be at a pretty good-sized favorite, but I think it's a good spot for them. And whatever, and a baseball game tonight, which you already got by listening to the show.
And get some more baseball also in about an hour and a half here, a little bit before 2 Eastern. Dave will be on MLB First Pitch right here, breaking that Dodger Brave game down in depth once again. Dave Cokin, at Dave Cokin on Twitter. Best of luck this weekend, Dave. I'll talk to you soon. I'll see you in some baseball next week on Tuesday. And on the way back, 22nd break, we're going to do another national TV college football game here for Thursday night. The huge matchup between Louisiana Lafayette and Arkansas State. And I'm anxious to hear what Teddy has to say about this one because he said there's some underlooked at angles here in this game that the odds makers might be sleeping on. So 20 seconds, big game breakdown, college football style after the break.
Thousands of you enjoyed the NHL opening week $9 special, so it's only fair that we offer the NBA fans the same deal. Every NBA daily package for the opening week through Monday, October 25th is just $9. That's right, you will not be paying $25 for a package, nor will you be paying $35 for 5% best bets for the opening week of the NBA, as all daily basketball packages are only $9. Make sure to tune in every Monday through Friday for the NBA tip-off show on WagerTalk TV, and then save and start the NBA season with a slam dunk deal. Thousands of
It is time for today's big game breakdown. Let's talk some college football for tonight. The Raging Cajuns of Louisiana Lafayette traveling to Arkansas State, take on the Red Wolves right now. We're seeing Lafayette about an 18-point favorite on the road. Total, let's call it 70.5 for tonight. It is likely to be a high-scoring affair. We had Vegas odds maker Arthur DeCesar on yesterday's show talking about how point spreads aren't any weaker at this time of the year, despite the fact that there are so many sports going on. He's like, we've got experts for different sports. It's not like we're spending less time putting the lines together. The lines are just fine. But there's one thing that you will find at this time of the year, especially in the sports that have already been going for a couple of months, like the NFL, particularly like college football. The nuance in the line. All right. I've talked about this on the show before. I talked about it earlier in the year. The Raging Cajuns of Louisiana Lafayette, they've had all kinds of problems covering double-digit point spreads in recent seasons. Already this year, minus 26 against Nicholls State, minus 14.5 against Georgia Southern, minus 12.5 against South Alabama. All of those one-score games. They won all three. They never sniffed a point spread cover in any of them. That comes right on the heels of exactly what they did last year and the year before. 2-8 against the spread. Their previous 10 as double-digit chalk from 2020 and 2019. They're coming off a huge win against Appalachian State last week. They're facing an opponent in Arkansas State that is coming off a much-needed bye week, and Arkansas State has the type of offense that can put the biscuit in the basket. They can come through the back door if they get blown out early. So, yeah, power rating A, power rating B says Louisiana Lafayette should be 18-point favorites on the road tonight. But when you look at the nuance of the matchup, the dog in the good spot, the dog with the offensive potency, the favorite with repeated failures under the same head coach to cover point spreads like this one, boy, everything points towards Arkansas State tonight. Plus 18, too many points. Give me the Red Wolves plus the points. This one on ESPNU this evening. Check it out. And there's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Merrill.
Teddy covers big game breakdown style. And Teddy, I actually covered that game on the Every Game on the Board podcast that you and I both do, along with Matt Josephs and Rob Vina with Drew Martin each week. I did the first quarter of the games, and this is when we talked about it. The same thing jumped out at me, Teddy. On the surface, outright underdog upset last week on national TV, and now they're a huge road favorite. And then you look at Arkansas State, they're a terrible running team, but they do throw the ball okay, and that's what you look for, that backdoor cover potential. So I was anxious to hear your breakdown on that. Many of the points I brought up yesterday with Drew. And once again, if y'all want analysis for every single college football game, check out either Teddy's Twitter, mine, or Drew's, as he posts that at Drew Martin Bets, at Teddy Covers, or at Steve Merrill, 2 R's, 1 L. Every Game on the Board podcast, college football style, is posted each and every week. It's up there right now on those Twitter handles. Ralph Michaels, another great Twitter follower, the human database, the walking database. Haven't seen Ralph in a few weeks. Great to see Ralph as always. And Ralph, we got a lot of NFL data to get to real quick. The Pin, that's another great nickname I forgot about. Before we get to all that, though, I'm going to throw you not a curveball because I know you probably have this info, but we've been talking about softer lines early in the season or October, or the books caught sleeping. From what you've seen over the years, do you feel do more games land closer to the numbers, say, in the NFL as the season goes on, or the NBA? Do point spread margins become tighter? Is there something the lines being softer early in the season in different sports?
Well, I think there's a bigger variance, obviously, because there's the intangibles. Last year was a crazy season because of having no fall practices and no preseason games. So yes, obviously the lines have more variance earlier, but that's just because we don't have a handle on the team. As the season progresses, anyone that does power ratings can produce numbers in the NFL, producing a power rating number or a mythical line. And we're going to have so many games fall within that number. So I'm not so sure it's bookmakers doing a better job, power ratings getting stronger, as much as it is we are now familiar with these teams as the season progresses.
And I'll tell you what, Ralph, let's start with a chart in the NFL. We're going to look at a college football game afterwards, but speaking along, numbers and whatnot, how much have you lost betting home favorites of 7 or less? Teddy and Prez yesterday were talking about how double-digit favorites have done much better the last 5 years than when we all started back in the 90s. If you blindly played, I know you remember back in the 90s, if you blindly played 2 touchdown dogs or more in the NFL, I think 13 or more was the key number. It hit over 60% for a while back in the late 90s when I started. It's been the opposite. So how have home favorites of 7 or less been doing? I do the Fade the Public NFL video every week, and the majority of my plays have been the most public this year have been road favorites. There have been a ton of road favorites, I've noticed. I think all 3 last week were road favorites again. Home favorites 7 or less, and we've seen home field diminish here in recent years. I'm curious to see what the numbers say on that.
Well, let me just jump in and quantify your statement, Steve. I went back since 2014, and those that watch WagerTalk Today know that Prez, Teddy, and I talked about NFL big favorites a couple weeks ago and showed just how strong those numbers are. I looked at NFL favorites of 14 or more since 2014. There have been 21 of them. They have gone there have been 30 of them. They've gone 21-9, 70% against the spread. And listen to this number. They've gone 10, 19-1, 65.5% to the under. So
That's surprising.
14-point favorites in the NFL, 70% cover ATS, 65.5% to the under. So keep those numbers in mind. We're going to pull up the chart if Dan would be so kind. And you know me, guys, I love the color code. I like to try to visualize charts. So down the middle, we see the black numbers. Those are the favorites, -1, -1.5, each half number down to -7. On the right are home favorites since 2015. On the lefts are away favorites. Guys, take a look at the home favorite ATS numbers. There is only 2 profitable numbers against the spread. Home favorites of 2.5 basically break even. Home favorites of 6.5 are plus 6.8 units. If you blindly bet every home favorite of 7 or less since 2015, you have hit 45.8% of the spread. And with the juice, you are down 107 units. So I wanted to do this. I wanted to look at money lines. We know that if you're laying 1, laying 1.5, there's times you bet the money lines. But take a look at the situations at betting the money line -3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6, and 7. The gray box on the right-hand side tells you which has been better, ATS or money line. And you see there's a bounce back. There's no pattern that we can say a money line in this range is successful. But if you bet every money line as a home favorite since 2015, you are -80.4 units. So yes, if you bet money lines instead of against the spread, you are 27 or 26.8 units better. The eye-shocking number is, let's look at away favorites. Away favorites since 2015, the left-hand side of the chart, have gone 49.6%. And if you bet every away favorite, you are down 27.4 units. Look at the money line chart. Away favorites of 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6, 6.5, 7. There's many people that don't want to lay 240, don't want to lay 280, don't want to lay 310. But if you bet every away favorite since 2015 against the spread, you're -27 units. If you bet every away favorite on the money line of 7 or less, you are plus 4.9 units, a difference of over 31 units. So what jumps out to me, those straight up records for those away favorites of 4.5, 21-3, of 5.5, 20-4, of 6, 17-1, 6.5, 25-6. Home favorites, be careful betting of them. Away favorites, don't be afraid to land them. And the money line numbers I used, guys, just so you know, I started at -120 for -1. I ended up going -310 for 7-point favorites. I know sometimes 7-point favorites are -300. Sometimes they get up to -350, but I used a very fair money line number to come up with this data.
So one of the things I love about you being on the show every week, Ralph, is that you take stuff that we all kind of say and turn it on its ear, because here's the data, and you talked about the dramatic differences over the last 25 years between, for example, what double-digit favorites were doing 25 years ago versus what they're doing today. So here we have a spot where the public kicked butt last week betting these road favorites. And Merrill was talking about how it was all road favorites on the consensus show last week. And that's, or at least mostly many road favorites on the consensus show. And they all tend to do pretty well. Now your data is showing the road favorites significantly better than the home favorites. All right. Over a solid sample size, better than 4% better over the last 5 or 6 years. So is some of the stuff that the general public is doing what the wise guys aren't doing? Because the wise guys are stuck on 20-year sample sizes and what things used to be. Do you think that's at least part of the reason why the road favorites have done as well as they have? from a profit making standpoint. They're so much better than the home favorites.
Well, yeah, it's partial, Teddy, but I think this too. We're in a new age of the NFL. We have, back in the days when you had the purple people eaters and these defensive lines, quarterbacks didn't have microphones in the ear. There was harder communication with the teams. They didn't have the sophisticated signaling in systems for the other people to see. So I think the offenses have progressed. Secondly, I think we've seen a wider variance in the NFL. Probably 6-7 years ago, a 14-point top to bottom would be your power rating number 1 to number 32. I mean, we could get up to 20 now with some of the horrific teams we've had in the last 2 or 3 years. So I think it's two things. It's the modernization of the rules where the better team on the road doesn't have that home field edge and there's actually value with it. And the disparity from top to bottom in the NFL that we've seen in the last decade.
Yeah, the biggest takeaway for me, Ralph, would be the fact that home field advantage has been diminishing each of the last 5 years from 3, 2, 2, 2.5, 2, 1.5. Even before the pandemic and no fans last year, NFL home field was worth less than it had ever been worth. So that would make sense once again that road favorites are going to start doing a little bit better because that might not be accurately priced in by the odds makers or by the sharp bettors. And the other things, too, as we close out that chart, is you notice it started about road favorites of 5 or more. That would be if you factor in maybe 2 points each way. That's about a 9 to 10 point home favorite. So you're basically talking about teams that would be double-digit home favorites all the way from 5 on. Obviously, are pretty strong plays, and you're getting them at a discount. And that's what Teddy and I did last night, both being on the Chicago Bulls. Yes, it was close, but I do like playing good Class A teams in the NBA on the road for the same reason, because you're getting a 4 or 5 point discount on teams that often don't have a strong home court. Hey, real quick, before we switch over to your college football game, I want to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. This is another team that's been fascinating for me. I talk about my Fade the Public NFL video. The Chiefs had made that probably 30-40% of the time since I started it late November last year. And one of the reasons they went 31-7 last year, Fading the Public, is because it was against the Chiefs most week, and they only covered 1 point spread the whole second half of the season. And they'd only covered one until a couple weeks ago, until this past week. They covered their second one. Let us know about the Chiefs. What are your numbers saying about them? How do you play them going forward?
Well, we saw them move the ball against Washington, and there's no question we know what the Chiefs' issue is. It is turnovers. It's been an amazing 5-week period for the Chiefs. Mahomes has been one of the best touchdown to interception ratios into this year, and he has 7 interceptions the last 4 weeks, and they have 11 over the last 5 weeks. I mean, that's getting into some of the worst in the NFL over a 5-week span that we've seen. But, it's not Mahomes making every bad decision. The wide receivers that were so accustomed to never dropping the ball have had some tips. They did it in Washington yesterday. And, one thing when you look at KC, of the interceptions, 8 of the last 10 have happened in the opponent's red zone. So let's look at the situation now. And I'm going to pull up 2 numbers just to support the Kansas City side this week. Teams in the NFL. Now, this isn't a huge sample size. Teddy and Steve, we know that, when you're 100 or 200 games, it's a stronger system than it is when you only have 25 games. But looking in the NFL the last 7 years, teams that were on the road and trailed at halftime and ended up winning that game by 14. So you're into halftime, you give the speech, you come out strong, you trailed, you win that game by 2 touchdowns. What happens the next game? Well, those teams like Kansas City have gone 19-6-1 ATS. That is 76%. Now let's look at the flip side. We all watched Tennessee come back against Buffalo on Monday night. Well, how about this system, which has 85 games, and it's as simple as it gets? And to me, it makes total sense. NFL teams off a Monday night upset win have gone 32-48, 40% against the spread. So with the KC in a must-win mode now, chasing teams ahead of them, Mahomes, I don't think can possibly throw the interceptions like he's throwing, and catching Tennessee off a Monday night upset win, I will back the Chiefs. I know they've been ugly ATS. I think they do win and cover in this spot.
A 76% spot and a 60% spot in favor of Kansas City, a pair of strong angles from Ralph Michaels. Ralph, we got just a minute or two left. I want to get your thoughts on at least one college football game, and you've picked an interesting one. I don't make any bones about not talking about the marquee matchups. Where you make money a lot of times in college football is on the secondary matchups. And this is one that has intrigued you. Wyoming, minus 20 against New Mexico. What are we going to do with the Cowboys and the Lobos?
Well, much like UNLV, New Mexico is a bottom feeder in college football, no question. Their offense is number 130. Oh, by the way, there's 130 FBS teams, so they're last. But Dave Cokin mentioned on the earlier segment, San Jose State's coming into UNLV, and they are a focused team. That's the same situation here for the Cowboys. Off back-to-back losses against Air Force and Fresno State. Why did they lose to Fresno State? They had a yardage edge. They were -5 turnovers. I throw away that loss. We do know that Craig Bowl, they are 17-8 against the spread off a loss. They are 6-1 ATS off back-to-back losses. This New Mexico offense, horrendous. Last 5 weeks, 0, 13, 10, 7, and 7 points. Terry Wilson, a game-time decision. He hasn't quarterbacked in practice this week, but why would they go to him with no practice if they have to? CJ Montez, the backup, listen to this on the season, 3 for 20. Your backup quarterback who started last week and may have to play today is 3-20 passing on the year, or you got a Terry Wilson who's completed 57%, missed last week, and has no practice. Wyoming put up 50 against Northern Illinois. They put up 45 against Ball State. They're playing a team that will allow them to rush. And why you don't think of Wyoming as a higher score offense to cover a 20-point spread, in this situation, oh yeah, let's remember last year. They were an 18-point home favorite. They lost to New Mexico 17-16. They finished this game strong. They keep their foot on the gas. They get the bad feeling out of their mouth from back-to-back straight-up losses, and they take care of a foe they will not look past this week.
Yeah, New Mexico, by the way, 0-7 against the spread this year, and the line's still not inflated enough. My power ratings make Wyoming -25 in this game, and they have absolutely no backdoor cover potential, as you said, Ralph. So really fascinating how bad they are. 13 points or less in 5 straight games they've scored. This is one of the worst offensive teams I've ever seen, ever, in college football. And we're living in an era of offense in college football. That's Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com. Ralph, I know you're a busy man as always. What have you got going on at WagerTalk.com and elsewhere?
Guys, I'm just going to mention I have a 2-for-1 package up tonight in college football and the NHL. But please do check out those Wager Talk logs. I put a ton of work into them. And I'll tell you what, they got even better this week. I did a college football stat compare in rotation order, adding year-to-date stats and conference-only stats. So important to start comparing conferences to conferences. We have some MAC teams and Sun Belt teams where one team played multiple BCS foes. The other team played a very weak schedule. So you're not comparing apples to apples year-to-date numbers. Conference-only numbers will do that for you.
That's awesome. Ralph Michaels, the human database, WagerTalk.com. Be sure to check out all that great content. WagerTalk.com, of course, the goldsheet.com as well. I know Ralph contributes there as well. Goldsheet, WagerTalk.com. Thank you, Ralph, and thank you, Teddy, and thank you, Prez, for allowing me to guest host. Prez will be back tomorrow on Friday and Monday, and then I'll be with you, Teddy, from Tuesday to Tuesday the following week. So I'm preparing as we speak. A quick reminder, I do have a promo code, WEEK59. You get the next 7 days and nights, all sports, NBA off to a perfect 3-0 start. You get NBA, baseball, college, and pro football for 7 straight days. Promo code WEEK59, 59, Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. Teddy, take us out.
Sure, that's going to wrap it for the Thursday edition of Wager Talk Today. I want to thank Dave Cokin. I want to thank Ralph Michaels. I want to thank Steve Merrill, and of course, all the fine gentlemen behind the scenes. Most importantly, I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your busy day. Hang out with us. We'll do it again tomorrow. Same time, same channel, 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east. Between now and then, heck of a night tonight in sports. Enjoy the games and good luck.
Thousands of you enjoyed the NHL opening week $9 special, so it's only fair that we offer the NBA fans the same deal. Every NBA daily package for the opening week through Monday, October 25th is just $9. That's right, you will not be paying $25 for a package, nor will you be paying $35 for 5% best bets for the opening week of the NBA, as all daily basketball packages are only $9. Make sure to tune in every Monday through Friday for the NBA tip-off show on WagerTalk TV, and then save and start the NBA season with a slam dunk deal.